Hey guys, this is Maryland Girl. I just wanted to come to you guys today and discuss something about this whole Josh Duggar situation. I know the entire thing is disturbing, so I can't say this is the most disturbing part of it, but something about this situation that really has been bothering me. It's come up a few times within the last week. And it's just like a recurring issue. And it's been confirmed by multiple sources, and it's just like getting under my skin at this point. So I have to disclose, I am not someone who ever watched the Duggars shows on TLC. I never really followed them. I've probably seen like a couple episodes of 19 Kids and Counting. And I've never really tracked them as a family, their social media, the religious groups or religious circles that they run in. There are some people who are just like an expert on the Duggars and their religious beliefs and like everything that they do. And I've just never really been that interested. So what I know about them is what shows up in the news, and that's how I find out about them. I've never been to their church or anything like that, but so there are people who know a lot more about what's been going on with this family for years, and specifically what's been going on with Josh Duggar for years. And so yeah, I'm just finding out some of this stuff. But so there's something that I personally do. I don't know if other people do this, but when I see someone, sometimes I put myself in their shoes and I say, okay, if I was that person, this is how I would feel about it if I was in that situation. And I show that person compassion, or I give them the benefit of the doubt as if they are me, like as if I'm looking at myself and how I would think and how I would do something. So I think the way that I discussed Josh Duggar and his wife in that last video, and just the way I think about things in general, I kind of do that. Like, oh wow, if I had been, if I was his wife, this is what I would be thinking, or this is what I would do. If I was Josh Duggar, this is what I would have done. After that last scandal, I would have changed my name, got a new look, moved to a different country. I would have just, crossed my T's, dotted my I's, and tried to live on the straight and narrow, right? Like, that's, in my mind, what I would have done. But what I'm seeing this week is kind of like a slap in the face, to that side of me that's always trying to look at people as if they are trying to live a good life and just failing, right? Because in the Christian community, we see ourselves that way. Oh, we're sinners, we're redeemed, and we're not perfect, but we're trying. And some people, especially once they start watching pornography, like that's a really hard addiction for people to break. And so, I don't know, there's just some compassion there. Like, oh, they're trying to overcome this addiction. They have all of these safeguards put in place. They have covenant eyes on their computer, and they have accountability partners, and they really are trying to overcome their demons. But look, I've gotten to the point with Josh Duggar where I'm like, I don't think that's him. I don't think he's that guy. I don't think Josh Duggar is like on his face before God, like, oh my gosh, I really suck at life and I need your help. Help me overcome this addiction. I don't think that's him. That might be what I would do, but I am not Josh Duggar. And what has really shown me over the last week who Josh Duggar is him smiling in the midst of all of this. So when they showed that first mugshot of him when he got arrested, and he has like this smirk on his face, I was just like, what is this face he's making? Like, what, like, you got arrested for child pornography. Actually, I won't say child pornography. So just sort of like an aside, on YouTube, if you use certain language, there is a possibility that your video could be flagged. Or if you use certain words in the comments section, YouTube will automatically delete your comments. So moving forward, I doubt they do that with like the larger news channels, because they give them, you know, the benefit of the doubt because they're news organizations. But for some of the smaller channels, I think we do have to be a little bit more careful. And if you listen to some of those other channels, the language that they're using like abbreviations and things. And it really is just to cover your butt so your video doesn't get flagged. So YouTube doesn't think that you are creating that type of content. So moving forward, I am probably gonna limit the direct words that I'm using. So just understand I might be using abbreviations or sort of talking around the issue, not getting as specific, and that's why. If you comment on this video, try to do the same so that YouTube doesn't automatically delete your comment. Okay, so what I was saying is this guy is being arrested for receiving and possessing this illegal material. And he's like smiling in this video, in this mugshot. And I'm like, what is this face he's making? Is he just like, I don't know, why am I always doing this? Why am I always trying to believe the best of people when they're showing you that they're really psycho, right? Because usually when people get arrested and they have mugshots, they look pitiful, they look humiliated, embarrassed, or they just look really tired and kind of like, you know, bloodshot eyes and everything like that. This guy is smiling. I'm like, what would make someone smile like this? Is he just like, look, you know, I've been expecting this to happen. I knew it's going to happen. I've prepared myself mentally. Like, you know I'm going to prison and I've just kind of made peace with God about this. And it's like, is that what it is? Like, that's going through my mind because that's how I think. But we continue. Last Friday, they had the initial, after they arrested him, they had that initial hearing. And there are some other YouTubers that I have started watching that have been providing like all of this background information. And they have been attending those hearings because they're not being publicized for the public. But there's this one YouTuber, she has a channel. I'm gonna put the link to some of her videos that I've been watching. Her channel is called Without a Crystal Ball, and her name is Katie Joy. I highly recommend that you watch some of the videos on her channel because she's been attending these hearings and she gives you like a play-by-play of what's been going on. And she said that at this hearing on Thursday, he was smiling during the hearing, and she said he did not look like he was taking this seriously at all, and he just had this like smug look on his face. And so I'm like, okay, now we've got this picture, the mugshot, and now you're in the hearing smiling. And then again, and so he's been in jail for the last few days. And then yesterday was the detention court hearing where they're going to decide, you know, is he going to spend, the trial is in July. Is he going to spend the next few months in prison, awaiting trial and during the trial? Or is he going to be allowed out with you know, various limitations in place? And so yesterday they had that hearing. They're going through all of these details about what the case involves, what the nature of the images were, you know, giving more insight, because those indictment papers, they really didn't have a lot of info on them. They just said, you know, one count receiving, second count possession, you know, and they just said, you know, these involve children under 12. Well, yesterday's hearing, they went into a lot more detail, and it was very disturbing, and apparently it was very graphic. And they said that some of the material that he downloaded was considered it was considered like some of the worst material that those federal agents had ever seen. So he's at this hearing, and it is being reported by this YouTuber that I've been watching, as well as the Sun News, that he was not only smiling at yesterday's hearing, but he was laughing at times. Okay, that just, if there was anyone who was naively holding on to this idea that Josh Duggar is broken and humbled and crying out to God for help, that is over. He obliterated that with the last week. This is a guy who he's gone. As far as I'm concerned, Josh Duggar is gone. Like, not only should his wife leave him and take the kids, but the church needs to leave Josh Duggar. Like, there are times in the Bible when, we are advised to basically excommunicate people and kick them out. Now, this may just be like a technicality because it sounds like the man is about to go to prison, right? But we need to accept that this guy is so far gone. He's not sitting in the hearing crying, embarrassed, humiliated. He's laughing. Like, you would think a lawyer would tell you, hey, when you go into this hearing, you need to look, like really sad, distraught. You need to look like somebody who's learned their lesson. This guy is showing up, not even making an effort. Even if he wants to say, I'm not the one who downloaded these images, it wasn't me. He could at least take it seriously. Like, if that's the defense that he's going to make, he could at least be like, have a serious face, like, okay, I know that this material is really serious and really disturbing, and I'm really, concerned for those children who are involved in that material that was downloaded. But hey, this wasn't me, and I'm gonna show with my facial expressions the seriousness of this occasion. And he can't even do that. Like, he is smiling and smirking and laughing before the world while he's being arrested for and going through multiple hearings related to this material. And it's disgusting. We need to wash our hands of this dude. We need to wash our hands of this guy. There is a time to turn someone over to Satan, and it is that time. It is that time. If there was anybody left on the planet who was confused about who Josh Duggar is, confusion's over. We know who he is. He smiles and laughs in the face of child abuse. Not only is he using it for his entertainment, but he's laughing at it. That's who he is. That's the person we're dealing with. So we need to pray for this man's soul, but we need to walk away. We need to walk away. Absolutely. So I know people are like, this guy is a pedophile. There's more than that. There's more than him. There's more to it than that. Like, if we just run down the list, okay? He molested his siblings and a family friend when he was a teenager. He admitted to having a porn addiction. He cheated on his wife for years. Remember, I said, I don't know if you saw my last video or listened to my last video. They said that he was paying Ashley Madison money from 2012 to 2015. So this is someone who was making an effort to cheat on his wife for years. Okay? And then one of the women that he did cheat with was someone that was a porn star that goes by the name, or that used to go by the name of Danica Dillon. This woman has had to get therapy because she had a sexual encounter with him and said that he assaulted her during the encounter, and she feared for her life. She later pressed charges against him, but the case, I believe, was settled or dropped. And she said that she told the truth in that, and that he knows what he did. He knows that what she said is the truth. So there's that. And now the guy has been caught with hundreds of images of pornography involving minors. And some of the images in his possession, we now know that were in his possession, that had been downloaded onto his computer. One of the files contained abuse of toddlers. So after all of this, his way of trying to weasel himself out of this is to lie to his wife and say, oh, it was an ex-employee that was using my computer and they downloaded the imagery. But if you listen to the recap of the hearing on Katie Joy's YouTube channel, and there's been lots of articles written about it, the federal government, or the federal agents, did a very good job in presenting evidence that showed it wasn't just, we didn't just track this imagery to your IP address. It's not just we know it was your computer. We know that you were the one who logged onto the computer. We know that you were the one who was using the computer when these images were downloaded. One of the many ways they know is because the person used the same exact password that contains this guy's birthday and is the same password that he used on his bank accounts. So they know for various reasons, including that reason, that this was definitely him. And then he tries to throw his brothers under the bus by saying, well, oh, my brothers also work here and they also have access to this computer. It's like to suggest that it could have been them, right? But something I find very interesting that was mentioned is that when, in 2019, when Homeland Security was raiding his used car lot, and they were confiscating his, they were saying they need to take his computer, his iPhone, some of his stuff. He asked, without being given any information as to why they were there, what they were looking for, he said, is someone downloading, child pee on my on my computer? Is that what this is about? Like, why would you ask that? What would make you ask that? This guy is guilty, guilty, guilty. Not only is he guilty, but he doesn't feel guilty about it. Other people would feel guilty about this. He doesn't. If you're trying to put yourself in Josh Duggar's shoes and saying, oh man, if that was me, I know I would be. He ain't you. He ain't me. He is his own person. He has his own personality. He has his own demons. And he seems to be enjoying those demons. So we need to not put ourselves in his shoes. Pray for his soul, but wipe your hands, wipe your hands of him. Let him go. Let him go. This is a man who, look, in a different time period, we know what would happen to this guy. Okay. I know people get really angry when Christians talk about stoning and all of this stuff, but in a different time period, in a different time period, this wouldn't really be possible. The internet makes doing good very easy. It makes doing bad very easy. But in a different time period, if he had done something to this effect, I personally don't think prison is enough, but that's just me, and that's a lot of people actually. But this is someone who, he needs to go away for a very long time. A very, very long time. Yeah. Because he is showing us, not just through his actions, like if you go back to what happened when he was a teenager, what he did as a teenager, all the way through now. And this is just what we're finding out about in the news. The people who, look, I don't live in Arkansas, okay? My name is Maryland Girl for a reason. I don't live in Arkansas. But the people who are in his community, in the church, have gone to church with them, the people who know the Duggar family, they know a whole lot more than the rest of us know about what's been going on with that family, what's been going on with Josh Duggar for years. They've known about a lot of this stuff. You know? So they know that he's been this kind of guy for a long time. There are people who, they've known that he's been this unrepentant sinner for a long time. Whereas those of us who are just seeing on TV, we can only guess what this person is like based on what we're seeing, based on what we're reading in newspapers. But this guy is pretty consistent in showing through his actions, through molesting people as a teenager, through cheating, through continuing to watch pornography, through watching child pornography, through strangling and assaulting porn stars, that he paid for sex, mind you, that he paid that woman to have sex with, to sleep with him. He has a consistent pattern. We can't even just say, oh, he's a pedophile, he needs help. He has a variety of appetites that just make him a garden variety sexual deviant. And some of that deviancy includes pedophilia. It includes a lot. But this is someone that we need to be done with. My last video was, should Anna Duggar leave her husband? Yes! Leave. Take whatever help people will give you. Use whatever resources there are available to you, and leave this guy. Leave him for all the stuff he has done, and leave him for smiling and laughing about it. This guy is a psychopath. The mask has been taken off. The mask is gone. There is no mask. Leave. Take your children. And no one else should let their children around this guy. No one else. Whether they're children, and I'd be very concerned. This family that Josh Duggar has been released. He's not going to be in He's not going to be in prison until his trial. He's going to be staying with this family friend of Jim Bob Duggar, and that family, they have a 22-year-old daughter. If I was that 22-year-old daughter, I know I wouldn't feel comfortable with that guy, because that's why I said some people are like, oh, he's a pedophile, this woman is probably fine. No, he's strangled a porn star that's like his own age. This guy. You don't have to be, younger than him. He has issues with his sexuality, but with the way he expresses sexuality, with his sexual appetites. It's not limited to minors. He is a danger to females. And I don't know if he's a danger to little boys, but he is a danger to females. I feel very concerned about this 22-year-old that he's going to be living with, and they have to stay with him like 24/7. Like, they can't leave him out of their sight. He has to stay in that house the whole time up into the trial, and I guess during the trial, like, he can't go anywhere. He's got one of those ankle bracelets on, and he's got to stay in that house the whole time with those family members. I feel very concerned for them. I hope they're okay. I hope nothing goes on. But yes, Anna Duggar needs to leave that man, take her kids, move to a different state, and get therapy, and make sure nothing has happened to her children already. Make sure nothing has happened. Forget Josh. Forget him. Forget him. I don't care if he's your first love. I don't care if you've known him since you were 19. I don't care. I don't care. Protect your children from the possibility of being molested. And the sad thing, we need to say this. There's many sad things. It's not just one sad thing. One more sad thing is that when you see someone who has issues like this, it is very likely that didn't just come out of nowhere. It's very likely that he himself was either sexually abused, or was exposed to sexual abuse. He was sexually abused himself as a minor. The pattern is well established. Something probably happened to Josh Duggar when he was younger. So the danger you run into is that not only, if you don't take this seriously, that Josh Duggar could molest his own children, but then years later, his own children could become child molesters. Because that's unfortunately what happened. It goes generation to generation. Somebody molests you, and then that twists your sexual appetite, and then you then become a sexual deviant yourself, and now you're acting out your desires onto other people, onto young people, against their will. This is about protecting her children from her husband, but also protecting her children from turning into her husband. Like, there's a lot going on here. This needs to get stopped now. And they probably need to try to figure out what happened to Josh Duggar, at whose hands, and does anybody else need to get arrested? Does anybody else's property need to be raided? Does this go any further than Josh Duggar? Because I don't think that this just comes out of nowhere. But that's what I wanted to say about Josh Duggar. The Christian community, and I mean the body of Christ as a whole. I know some people are like, well, they're in a cult and what they believe isn't really, believed by all Christians, but a lot of people, I know that I said that I didn't watch their show, but a lot of people, even if we're not in those small, like, Quiverful groups or Bill Gothard groups, or even if we're not in those groups, there's still a lot of people within the broader Christian community that like the Duggars, that read their books, that watch their shows, and that generally think, they're a nice Christian family. And we don't know that family. I have said it before, and I have said it again, and I'm saying it again. If you don't know people in person, if you haven't interacted with them in person, you don't know them. You don't know them. Most of us don't know the Duggars. Just because they dress modestly and they sound sweet and they have a lot of kids, that doesn't mean they're raising their kids well. It doesn't mean that they're good examples for us to follow. We don't know what happens when those cameras get turned off. We don't know. We're finding out some of it, though, and it's ugly. And this kind of ugly doesn't come from nowhere. I don't think you just wake up one day, unless you get possessed by a demon or something, when you're going through puberty. You don't just wake up one day and say, I'm gonna molest my sisters. That doesn't come out of nowhere. So they need to find out how far this goes and bring everybody to justice. So that's what I want to say about that. Let Josh Duggar go. I'm done with him. We need to be done with him. And then there's one more thing that I want to say. I want to say this about the victims, okay? Because I think that when I talk about, what should Anna Duggar do and how should we look at this situation, I know people will say, what about the victims? What about the victims? You're not concerned about the victims. And so I just want to speak to that. I left a comment in my other video about this, but I want to, officially speak to this. The way I am looking at this case, one, we are all finding out more information sort of at the same time. Okay, together. And based on the limited information I have this image in my mind of just this guy going on the internet downloading material of random children, right? Of people that he doesn't know personally. These children may not even be from the United States. Like, they could be anywhere from all over the world. And do we know who these children are? Do we know, and when I say we, I mean the authorities, do they know who they are? Are the children, have they been rescued? Are they safe? Are they getting therapy? I don't know the answers to any of those questions. I certainly hope that the children are getting all of the help, all of the love, all of the therapy that can be given to them. And yes, I am concerned for them. It's just that I think if we don't know who they are, they're kind of, in a sense, faceless, even if they may not be faceless in the videos. And so it's knowing that these are random people on the internet. It's hard to say, I hope that these children get justice. I mean, as far as this case is concerned, the justice goes as far as putting Josh Duggar in prison for a very long time. But does that... Are those children gonna know, oh, hey, this one guy that lives in Arkansas who watched this video of me being abused, he's going to prison for 40 years. Or however long he's gonna go. Like, that's great. But, I mean, realistically, are they gonna find out about that? Are they going to... Well, maybe they will. It's global news now, but... Are those children safe? Are they still in those horrible situations? Like there's two sides to justice. There's one, putting these people away, and two, rescuing those children and protecting them and finding out who was abusing them in those videos and putting those people away forever. So there's multiple levels to this. And I 100% hope that all of those levels of justice take place. I just don't know. I don't know the full extent of this because I'm not one of the federal investigators. I don't know exactly every movie and every image that he looked at and the identity of those children and what all of their stories are. So I'm not really qualified to speak to that. Yes, I hope that they're okay, but we don't know who they are. If it had been, whereas if it's someone that he himself had interacted with or touched inappropriately, now we can say we know who these people are, and we hope that this person gets therapy, and we hope that this person gets, love and support, and there's like a face and a name, and we know who to direct our love and attention to. In this situation, we don't know who that is. So I hope that people understand, just because I'm talking a lot about Josh Duggar, just because I'm talking a lot about his wife and all of these other issues, it doesn't mean that I don't care about these victims. It doesn't mean that I think what happened to these children is not that big of a deal. I definitely had my eyes opened from the time I did my last video until the details that came out in yesterday's hearing. hear every graphic detail, and I'm a sensitive person. I wouldn't want to hear every graphic detail. You know, I would be happy to forget some of the things that I did hear, and it wasn't even that much. But I hope people understand that. I do care about the victims. I do pray that they are okay. I have no idea who they are, where they are, and what's going on with them. So all we can really focus on, maybe federal agents can track those kids and find out what their situation is. But as far as me, you know, living in the US, all I can really speak to is what's going to happen with Josh Duggar, and what should we do from this point forward as the Christian community. How should we interact with the Duggars as a family and their material that they're putting out, their shows, their books? What should our stance toward this family be? And should we be encouraging his Josh Duggar's wife to, you know, divorce her husband and take her kids? And the answer to that is absolutely 100%, for the protection of those children, and so they don't carry on this cycle of abuse into a next generation by becoming sexual deviants themselves, you know. And it starts young, you know. I don't know if it started before Josh Duggar was 14, but that's young. So I do want to speak to that. Please don't misunderstand. I do care about the victims, and we should care about them. So that is what I had to say. This is official. Cancel Josh Duggar. And just because you're a nice person and you feel the conviction of the Holy Spirit, don't mean that Josh Duggar is you. That's my takeaway from the last several days. Okay? So let me know your thoughts. That's all I had to say for now. All right. Peace out.